All right, it might be the day of the South Carolina primary, but you'll find John Kasich, the man who finished a strong #2 in the New Hampshire primary, actually in Vermont, one of the dozen or so states that are part of Super Tuesday, the big primary run-up on Tuesday, March the 1st. Governor Kasich, good to have you.
Always a pleasure, Neil. In Vermont.
It is a beautiful state at that. That's home of Bernie Sanders.
And Ethan Allen.
Well, there you go. Let me ask you a little bit about this Antonin Scalia funeral today, if I can. Much has been made of the president not going. Emanuel Cleaver was just with us. They probably would have been better if he did. But is it worth the dust up? There's not consistent protocol on this. What do you think?
Well, you know, I was curious when I read in the paper. I haven't thought about it much, Neil. I read in the paper he wasn't going, and I said to the people with me, well, it's interesting the president's not going to the funeral. And they said, well, there's really no precedent for that. So, you know, that's all I'd have to say about it. I mean, if I were president, I'd probably go. But, you know, the demands on the president go on and on and on. And for some reason, they just chose to. I don't know. I can't explain it. I think I would go, Neil.
Yeah.
You know, in Ohio, if my Chief Justice or any of the justices of my court died, I would go. I went to the funeral of the guy that I defeated for Congress, and the family was very moved. I went to former Governor Jack Gilligan's funeral, and the family was really touched. So, look, if it brings a little solace to the family, then you ought to do it. You know, I mean, you can't go to everything, Neil. You can't go to everything, but some of these things really stand out, right?
What do you think of this idea that at least the Senate leadership, beginning with Mitch McConnell, wants to hold off on even confirmation hearings of any sort until a new president comes in?
You know what I've said about it. My feeling is that the Congress is so divided. Why? You get Obamacare passed with not a Republican vote. You got a situation where, you know, he uses all these executive orders, and now he thinks he's going to get something confirmed. No, I think it's a political game now for him. And, you know, my feeling is, how about a twofer for the American people? You elect the president, and then you know the direction of the court. That's what I call a twofer.
Yeah, but would you want the same done to you if you were president? Last year, if they're writing.
Well, here's the thing. That's a good question, Neil. But here's the thing: if I ended up as president with the Congress as badly divided as this one is, I wouldn't send anybody up. But I'm not going to have that situation because I've spent my whole lifetime being able to build bridges, not walls.
Now, you're also very emotional. You relate to people on a very natural human level. And of course, this became viral, this video and this exchange you had with a young man who was dealing with some personal hardships, and you hugged him, touched a lot of people. And I'm just wondering, Republicans get a rap, fairly or not, Governor, for not doing enough of that. What do you think of that?
Would be true, and, you know, be thine true unto yourself, right? I mean, Neil, this is not the first time. I want you to know that this has been happening on the trail for many, many, many months. People have come to me about their problems with epilepsy. One man, Drew from New York, who had a son who had cancer, and he was sort of blaming himself for not alerting his son about the dangers of different diseases. And he gave me a big hug, and he's crying, and I explained to him, it's not your fault. And he told somebody later that it had a weight lifted off his shoulders. I don't understand it. I deeply appreciate the fact that people feel safe when they come to these events. I had a father and his son come and visit me last night in South Carolina, and he visited with one other candidate. He came to talk to me about his son's disease. And hey, look, I don't want to get into this, Neil. I mean, this is just self-serving. I'm going to reach out and do the best I can as a human being. And frankly, that's why you and I have a connection, because we connect at the human level. Not on the God-darn. I mean, we can talk all day about the debt, the deficit, the ratings, and laugh and chuckle. But your and my relationship is not related to issues. It's related to the way that you and I have connected through our hearts.
Yeah, and you think about it, Justice Scalia got along famously with Justice Ginsburg, politically far apart, but good friends.
But Neil, here's the interesting thing, and I think I told you this in New Hampshire when we talked. There's a lot of people that are lonely.
Yeah,
and the strength of our country doesn't come from some guy riding in on a white stallion to solve all of our problems. The answers to most of the spirit of our country lies in us, in our communities, in our families, in the
Fair
the
enough.
Sons of Columbus and the Croatian Club and all of us working together a little bit.
All right, Governor, thank you. I think John Kennedy famously said we all breathe the same air, right, at our core.
That's right, sir.
Governor,
God bless you.
Thank you
And God
very,
bless
very much.
the Scalia family
All
today.
right,
It's got to be a tough day.
All right, Governor, thank you. We're looking inside the Basilica right now, the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. Ted Cruz is there. Of course, he was a clerk for Chief Justice Rehnquist many years back, a very close friend of Scalia. But he is there outside.